Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and I'm just leaving my friends at English Car Care where I picked up a bunch of things. One of them is a bumper set for European XJ6 Series 3 that a customer of mine needs, so I'm just picking it up for him, and then I think he's gonna fit it himself, and if he has some issues, I'll help him out. And then I picked up a fuel tank for the Daily Driver XJ6, a right-hand fuel tank. It's always leaked on mine, and I found a good used one now, so I just removed that from a parts car. And it's in the tank. It's in the car. It smells a bit of fuel, but I have it plugged as much as I could. But I'm looking forward to getting it home and getting it out of this car. But I thought it's time to talk about the X-type. I actually don't remember how long it's been since we put this thing back on the road. If you don't know, it is a 2005 2.2 diesel manual estate. It's a 6-speed manual. And I bought it a little bit before Christmas sometime. I didn't get to my house until pretty much around Christmas, and then with some rust. We did the rust repairs on it. I painted the sills again, put the covers back on, replaced the brake master and the brake servo, bled out the brakes and clutch and things like that, and it seems to be working well. As of now, let me check exactly. We have driven 2,631.7 kilometers since this thing's been back on the road, and I think that's pretty good. My wife has been driving it quite a bit, taking it to work. I've been driving it also now when there's been salt and stuff on the roads, taking the kids to daycare and also taking this thing to work. The really nice thing is this thing is excellent on fuel, and you sort of expect it to be being a diesel, but it's even better than I thought. I'll do all the conversions as well, but here we do liters per 100 kilometers. So it's done on average during that whole 2,600 kilometers about 6.3 liters per kilometer. And that is really, really good, because a lot of it is short distance driving. Just down to daycare and back home. A lot of it is towing a trailer with horses and things, and it is utterly fantastic. When I've driven just on the highway and I've just tested, just gone on a trip computer, because there's two of them, I've zeroed out the other one, and I've just tried out what it does on a trip, and it is around 5 liters per 100 kilometers. So really, really good stuff. In about a week and a half, I am going to Stockholm, actually, which is somewhere around a 600 kilometer one-way drive, so 1,200 kilometers there and back, and I'm taking the X-type, so that will be really interesting to see what it does on a long trip. But what do I think of this car so far? The X-type does have a stigma with it. It always did, which is sad, because everyone says, oh, that's just a Mondeo in drag, but it's just a Mondeo with some fancier trim. It shares about 32% of its DNA and parts with a Mondeo. It also has some parts from Volvos and other things. I've driven a lot of the cars that have the same parts as this one. I've driven a Mondeo from the same time. I've driven lots and lots of miles in V50, Volvo V50s, which are very similar to these. And I have to say, this drives much nicer than those. So even if it shares parts, they're very well set up in this car. It drives beautifully. Even if it's a diesel, it's quite smooth. Like here on the highway, you can't really hear the engine. The only noise I'm hearing right now is my noisy winter tires. But other than that, nothing really. I think the X-type deserves a little bit more love than it's gotten. It is definitely one of the best estate cars I've had, and I love estate cars or wagons, whatever you want to call them. I absolutely love them. I think they're so practical. They're really versatile. I like how low it is. I like the seating position. The seats are very comfy. It doesn't look like there's a lot of foam or whatever you want to call it in the seats, so they're quite sporty in that sense. But even if they look a little bit firm, they're still comfortable. My wife has taken the car on a couple long trips. One long trip up to Gothenburg, that's like 2 hours one way, and she thought it did really, really well. The only sort of thing I probably would want to change is, because of the manual transmission and the diesel and the nature of it, you're changing gears quite a lot, and it's really not that big of a deal. But it's just because the rev range that you have, sort of usable torque, is really 1500 RPM to 2500 RPM. Above 2500 RPM, the engine just sort of makes more noise. It doesn't really do much more. And below that, it's sort of chugging too much and it's not really efficient. But in between there, it's good. So when you're like pulling out on the highway, you're changing gears really quickly, and you're pretty quickly up into fifth. And then I like to pull up at, to speed, past some trucks or whatever, and then I put in sixth. And then it's very, very calm and smooth sailing. Otherwise, this particular car, every single thing still seems to work as it should. All the buttons work, CD changer, radio, everything actually works rather nicely. But we'll touch on wood. There is a lot of wood in here, and some people think it's fake wood. It is actually real wood. All old Jags, they have real wood. Even if this is the baby Jag, the entry model, you still got real wood. So that's sort of really what I want to talk about today. Just a little bit of update on this car, and we've actually driven it quite a bit. Now that summer is hopefully, or spring's coming pretty soon, we're going to drive this thing a little bit less, as some of the other cars on the channel are going to come out. But this has been a great winter car to sort of take out when all the salt's been out. And it's also been rather good in our life right now, because my wife has just gone back to work again after being home with the kids for a long time, and also being home sick with her illness. So money's been a little bit tight, and I, at the same time, I went down to 50% with my regular job and working 50% on YouTube, and so money's been a little bit tight while I build up business and build up things. So this has been a great thing that we've basically just been driving this car for the past month, just because it's so good on fuel. She's gonna get back to driving a Range Rover again. I'm gonna get back to driving the Jags, the old Jags. But it's nice to have a car that actually gets really good fuel economy. I've never had that before. A lot of people knock, why did you get the diesel? Well, two reasons. One, I wanted the good fuel economy. I wanted to have at least one car that I can feel that it's not that expensive to take on a long trip. Like now when I'm going to Stockholm, it's not a very exciting trip. I'm going up there for a meeting, and I've also bought some parts up there, so it's cheaper for me to drive them back down than to have them shipped, because it's quite big, especially with fuel economy this thing's getting. If I were to do in the Range Rover, it would be at least twice as expensive, if not almost 3 times as expensive. So it is quite a big difference. Anyways, that's really what I want to talk about the X-type. I want to know, have you had one? Or have I started to maybe change your mind that they're not, what people say they are? I have to admit that I never liked them when they came out. I liked the wagons. I never liked the sedans when they came out. I thought, baby Jag, I didn't really like the whole idea of it. But I mean, I was a teenager, so what did I know? But now that I've driven it, I completely understand it. It drives very nicely. It's one of the nicest driving front-wheel drive cars I've ever driven. It handles much better than any station wagon has the right to do. And most importantly, you can fit the whole family in there, dogs and everything. Right now, I mean, I have the seats folded down. I have 2 full chrome bumpers in here, a bunch of stuff, and a fuel tank, and I haven't even started to fill this thing up with parts. So really, really good car. Anyways, a little bit shorter, different video this week. I've been under the weather, and so have all the kids. It's that time of year, so I haven't been out in the workshop much, but I'm hoping to go again next couple of days and continue working on the XJS for you guys. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Until next time, I'm Adam. This is Live With a Classic. I'll see you soon.